How's it going today, Shnick?
I just woke up, rolled out of bed, showered, and here I am. Didn't eat any breakfast. This is the No Breakfast podcast.
I totally could have given you time to get something to
No,
eat.
I don't eat breakfast, so it's
Oh,
fine.
well, then never mind. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to start a podcast just to really, I don't know. I like having conversations.
I do too.
I want to start recording them and really just kind of shoot the shit, in all honesty.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to preface this by saying do not get any political views from me. I am politically stupid.
Or you could just say like, yeah, all these opinions are your own or something. I don't know.
Come up with your own opinions. That's what I'm trying to say. Come up with your own opinions. Don't take my opinions and make them your own. I mean, if you genuinely believe that, go ahead, I guess, but be careful with where you get your news from. I'm not a credible news source.
Neither am I.
Man. What a crazy state that the world's in right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much uncertainty, and I don't know. I think people are really confused right now, which, I mean, do you really blame them?
No. Not in the slightest. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of tension, underlying tension over the last decade anyway. And now everything's just kind of been brought to the forefront.
Yeah, and it's like, you are not able to do like most people's favorite things anymore. You're kind of isolated. It almost feels like, in a way, for me at least, that you're just in this like nonstop state of cabin fever, which you usually would only get, at least where we're from, in the winter time. But
Yeah.
it's pretty much like indefinitely you're just like in that state. So um, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, pandemic, not even just racial tension, but just tensions in general.
Yeah, tensions are high
Small
all
small
over.
spats in households, like everything kicks up and
Hmm. Yeah, think about, like, let's take a typical family, right? Let's say you're a four-person family. You have your parents and you have two children, right? It's like in a few months, it's like how much time does this family interact? Maybe let's say, for example, they eat dinner together every day and everybody works independently, and maybe once a week they have some kind of, watching TV together or whatever. That's a very small amount of time that they're actually there all the time, and everybody's doing their own thing. And now it's like multiply that by how many ever times, probably five times more, like they're going to be interacting. And then, yeah, tensions are just high for everybody too. And so that's naturally going to put stress on the whole like family dynamic.
yeah, and take someone like
So,
me that I'm trying to be a lot more independent and really just focusing on my own needs and handling them myself instead of all of
mhm.
that. Now I have to, I mean, since March, I've been indoors
Yeah, and it's
the
hard to be
majority of the time.
independent when you're forced to be with other people. And yeah.
Yeah, and it also doesn't help that being permanently let go
Mhm.
as of about a couple weeks ago now. But I mean, it puts the onus on me to figure out what can I do to make money. And now I have other stuff to deal with, and the last thing I want to worry about is general frustrations just in living at home with family.
Right, yeah, exactly. So now all of a sudden you're affected by everybody else that's there as well.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is that since there's not a lot going on, you can really focus on different skills or different whatever you want to do at this point, right? So that's good.
yeah. I mean, trying to really. I mean, I've been going through kind of a bit trying to find out who I am, what I want to do, and trying to find my voice and the strength and will to project it, put thoughts and ideas out there, and it's still a struggle. I mean, even getting ready to do this today, it's like I'm still feeling like small waves of anxiety as we're talking,
right?
Which I think is just going to subside as we keep going.
Yeah.
The more I do it, then the better I get at it. So
yeah, of course. And if you, by the time you get to like the 5th one of these, it probably won't even be a thing. It'll just be like autopilot. It'll be like, okay, wake up, turn on the computer, get the preset, put it in, talk to the person, boom, boom, boom.
Pretty
I
much.
think every interview will probably be stressful in the beginning, but that's because you don't know what to expect.
I mean, I don't even think I'm conducting this interview style. It's just kind of going conversation style.
I mean, that is a style of interviewing, so I think it's fine.
Guess I never thought of it that way, but
yeah, if you're asking questions or bringing up topics, then I think that is an interview, right?
Yeah, good point. All right, well, let's get off the
sure,
let's get off that topic. What do you think the state of video games is at?
Okay, I think this is a good question. Let's not count right now all of this nonsense that's going on, because I think that this is in itself affecting things a bit, like development times and all that.
Yeah, so let's talk pre-corona.
Yeah, let's talk pre, or like right at the cusp. Like, think for example, I remember earlier in the year in April, like Doom Eternal was coming out and Animal Crossing, blah blah blah, right? I'll say that I feel like to some extent we're getting pretty oversaturated. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and it's just hard to keep up with everything. But at the same time, I mean, if you think about anything, like let's compare, for example, like maybe like television like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's like there was a point in TV where if you talk to your parents or whatever when they were younger, it's like there was like a few channels, right? You maybe had like 4 channels and that was it. And so at specific times you get specific types of shows, and that was it, because it was depending on who would be up. Would the kids be home? Would they not be home? You know, who would want to watch this, etc. And then TV became this thing of like there were more and more channels, then there became like cable, and then there were like hundreds of channels, and then you were just like aimlessly flipping through. It's like I kind of feel like we're getting to that extent right now. Is like I'm buying a game, I'm playing it for like a week or two, and then something else is coming that grabs my attention. And this is like, I don't even want to talk yet about like multiplayer games. I'm kind of talking about single player experiences. You know, we're getting a lot of games that are long, and that's okay. Like, I prefer long games, but if you're investing a lot of time and then you're constantly buying new things that also take a lot of time, it can get overwhelming. But there are also like these days a lot of indie games which are, you know, I feel like they're almost like a snack, right? Like you can enjoy it in a certain amount of time, and it's enjoyable and it's fun and it's good to look at, and whatever, it's tasty, good to look at, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel like we're getting to this point where there's too many options going out there, and it's like it's not a bad thing, because the general demographic of gamers has changed a lot. They're like, we're so diverse now, and everybody has so many different interests. There's so many genres and whatever.
Yeah, and that's such a great thing too.
Yeah, like it's really good, but I think from the consumer perspective, it's troublesome. There's too many things out there, and because of this culture right now, and like kind of all forms of media, social media, it's like you always want the newest thing and everything like that. It's like I I kind of think maybe soon there might be more of like a movement for people to get more into like starting something and finishing it. at least I've been doing this for years, but at least trying to. Um, but yeah, it just depends. And then if we move on to like online gaming, it's like, yeah, it's probably every like 3 months there'll be some new like hot online game that everyone starts playing. And the problem with those as well is that sometimes you want to play the game you were playing before, but then your friends move on. And if your friends move on, then you don't really want to play alone. So then all of a sudden you buy the new game. So that cycle of that is also really interesting. It's like obviously, devs don't really want to. I guess they would. Developers technically would want to make a game that lasts forever, but I think everybody's realistic enough to know that that's not going to happen. It's like the
Yeah.
only games that last forever seem to be like chess and really ancient games that everybody kind of knows the rules of or can learn them. And there's only the rules don't change over time. It
Yeah,
seems like games that change over time will ultimately eventually go poorly, or people will just lose interest.
I do want to hold that thought on chess, but I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of the developers are kind of playing on the fact that we are social beings,
Right.
especially when it comes to multiplayer games where there are some games that you can play by yourself, but the more people you have playing with you, the better it becomes.
Right.
I mean,
And
Destiny is a good example of that. I've been playing that again, Destiny 2. And I just been having an itch to get back into it and really get on the grind and doing that kind of stuff. But there's only so much I could do by myself.
Right.
So now it's gonna be me trying to get a couple people to jump in, start playing, and see if they like it, pick up expansions. Now that it's free to play, I feel like it works better for that instead of having this massive $40 to $60 upfront charge for the game and then even more for the expansions. So, yeah, I feel like the developers kind of understand that games will be better as a multiplayer, and that's why I think we've been seeing a lot more of multiplayer games than we have been single player games.
Right. But to go with that, I just thought of something when you were saying that. I have an argument with that as well, because from my perspective, let's say, right, like my biggest example is like the game BioShock 2. At the time, BioShock was known for being a really good single player experience, right? Everybody really enjoyed the first game. The second game came out, they had another enjoyable first uh single player experience.
Yeah.
And then they said, wow, everybody's doing these multiplayer content as well. We're going to add that in. And turns out it was, at least at the time, it was a pretty unique like first person shooter multiplayer experience. And a lot of people got really into it. However, with stuff like that, again, is like, if you're not one of the top like 3 or 4 multiplayer games, the community will be there for the first like 2 months, and then they'll just move on to something else because there's so much stuff coming out, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so what I think about is like all the games that you can get now, like you can go buy these games, but
yeah,
the multiplayer is not there anymore. So it's like, what happens to all these games? At least single player games can live somewhere forever, right? As long as you have the access to it. It's like you could pick a game like, I don't know, like what's something that's completely dead multiplayer wise. I'm trying to.
Let's say
What?
BioShock 2.
Yeah, let's say BioShock 2. Well, that's different too, because that's like the servers are probably gone, and like
Yeah, but still, I mean, even if the servers were up,
okay.
how many people realistically would be
You
playing
take
it
my
compared to
opinion.
Call of Duty?
Exactly. Like I could boot up my 360, put in BioShock 2. The servers are down. There's nobody playing, and there's really no way to be able to do it. And that's kind of weird because it's like that is part of the art of gaming, that these developers developed this whole part of the game, and basically it's just untouchable from now on. Like nobody will ever play it again unless they somehow make new servers for it, remaster it with that there, right? But even if they do that, it's like that will only be there for some amount of time. It's like multiplayer gaming is basically tied into profitability. And if it's not profitable anymore, they won't pay for servers, which costs them money.
Yep.
And that's it. So think about that going forward for everything. It's like these things will only like imagine kids right these days who are super into Fortnite, right? In some amount of time Fortnite won't exist anymore, and these kids are going to be like, wow, don't I wish I could just like go play Fortnite with my friends like I did in 2018 when I was a kid, you know, and
Oh,
now they're like 40 years old and they just won't be able to
we
unless
don't know
again
that.
somebody
Fortnite
sets up.
Fortnite seems like one of
Yeah.
those games that can somehow last forever. I mean, Call of Duty's still churning out new games, so
Yeah, but you know what I mean though, right? It's like
yeah.
at that point it's a different game. The way I like to think about it is like RuneScape, for example, they had like the old version of RuneScape, and then over time they changed it so much, and then the old fans were like, "We want old school," so then they made old school also a separate game. But again, it's like until eventually RuneScape will become non-profitable, and then both of those games probably won't exist anywhere except for if you can get some kind of localized server set up
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's
the
it's easy.
fans
It's
pay
easier
for
to
it.
say that without being able to project
Right, right.
like future numbers. And I
Hmm.
mean, you're you're always gonna have people wanting to go back to a game for that nostalgic effect. Um, I mean, hell, I've been replaying some single player games just because they've been my favorite games growing up, and I wanted to just go back and play them. Final Fantasy 8, 9, and 10, doing run throughs, just having a great time with it. But one thing I want to bring up, especially with uh, something like Bioshock 2's multiplayer, because I think it was ahead of its time. Then again, I
It
think
was.
all of Bioshock was ahead of its time. Um, but at the time when Bioshock 2 came out, I forget what year it was, but multiplayer games, shooters were extremely popular at the time.
Mhm.
Probably not as popular as they are now. Um, But when you come up with a game, a single player game that has a multiplayer, it's now competing against Call of Duty
Exactly.
Black Ops 2. I could be wrong on this. I probably should have looked that up. But
Yeah.
when you're competing against games like Call of Duty, you're competing against games like Halo, Gears of
Mhm.
War. Those are massive games that when somebody's playing a shooter, they're not going to think, oh, well, I'll play Bioshock 2's multiplayer.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. I mean, and that's why it died as well.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
I do
do I
think,
do like the creative aspect of it though, and
yeah,
how um I like the um I mean I would even say it's probably a precursor to the hero based games that we have now, because you had different abilities, you had the plasmids that you could use to for different things.
right.
um
You know what? Actually, just so you know, it's like, um, it. I played Doom 2016's multiplayer, which honestly kind of felt similar because even if you did well in the game, you would turn into a demon, which was essentially like what they did with the Big Daddies. Like if you there was like even a certain kind of game mode where if you did well enough, you would like turn into a big daddy and blah blah blah,
yeah.
and you have separate abilities. So it's like it was definitely there. But I think that the one thing they could do is like with these multiplayer experiences, if there was just an option to do LAN, like say for Bioshock 2, right? There was an ability to just get into the multiplayer. Number one, you could sit there and from an artistic standpoint be like, whoa, look at the scenery, like look at the setup of this like level design, right? You could look at everything and be like, this is awesome. And if you had the ability, like I still have a 360, I could get a friend with a 360 and we could literally just set up a LAN and we could still play. So that would still be there. And I think that's what's missing as well is these games will just lock you out of stuff. It's like servers aside, if you just can't get in. Like think about like GoldenEye, right? Like on N64, it's like it you can just play it. It's multiplayer, but you can literally just get friends and still play it. It's
Yeah.
still there. Um, so I don't even think people care about that besides me, not that many people, but I hope one day I can convince developers to do that again.
I mean,
So
I can agree. I mean, there should be some. I mean, a lot of the focus, especially now, doubly especially in Corona times, where people just aren't feeling very confident to meet up with a lot of people.
Exactly.
And having like online multiplayer, online co-op, and in all honesty, it's probably going to be. I mean, online connectivity was such a massive thing in being able to play games with friends and being able to communicate with people across the world.
Exactly.
But I'll agree that I think we also need to get back to the whole, or at least having some kind of a way to say we can play this game locally.
Yeah,
as
that's what
well
I mean.
as online, so that
Right.
the experience isn't completely lost.
And here's the thing is I don't think it's that difficult to do. I think the reason people stop doing it is because again, people stopped playing like that. So they weren't thinking. They weren't thinking like in 10 years people might actually want to play this with their friends. They might still have these consoles and these games. I don't think anyone thought about that. It
Yeah,
was probably another metric of like cost cutting, being like, okay, that's useless. We don't need that anymore. Everything's online. So just put that part in.
I was just about to
Right.
say it's probably
Yeah.
pressure from the publishers to say, well, let's cut out stuff that we don't cut out some stuff that we don't think is going to be necessary years down the line.
Right.
But I also think there's a I think it's always long term for a brand, but short term for each iteration of the game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
the Call of Duty brand has been going on forever, but every year there's another iteration of the game. So I'm pretty sure that the publishers have planned out like, okay, well, this year's going to be this game, next year's going to be this
Sure.
game, and they're still getting money just from people constantly playing it. We haven't really seen many games with a long-lasting iteration of one game. I mean, the only things I could think of are MMOs. So Final Fantasy 14 has been. I mean, when did Final Fantasy 14 come out? World of Warcraft over 20 years now. Those servers are still up. I might be wrong on
Yeah.
World of Warcraft, but it has been up for a long time.
I'm not a World of Warcraft person, so I wouldn't know. But to go along with that as well is like, let's take Call of Duty, right? Like, I remember World at War. I think you could play Call of Duty Zombies with 4 players, split
Yeah.
screen, if I'm not mistaken.
Split screen. I think it might have just been one other person.
Or even
Split
2.
screen.
Let's say it's 2, right? I don't think you can even do that anymore.
No.
Right.
A lot of games don't have that functionality.
Exist. So again, it's like if you get to the point where the servers don't exist anymore, you can't even just play with a friend. You just have to play by yourself, basically. But yeah.
I will say though, I think one thing they did right is that they didn't have dedicated servers for Call of Duty. I think they had like one person host.
Yeah, that's good at least, because that means that there might be some ability for people to just hop on and try it. But I think actually, I don't know how it works, but I think like Xbox 360 has, like, even if it did that, I don't think you can play those games online anymore. Like, I think they took down the ability to play, but I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It doesn't
I'm
really
not
sound
sure.
like it's something. It doesn't sound like anything that would be profitable.
Yeah.
Especially if a game is hosted by a player, it doesn't make sense to cut off the online aspect of it. Especially considering that you're paying to be able to play online.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I do know that Skate 3 is a 360 game and it has backwards compatibility, and I literally played online in it like last year or this year.
Yeah.
So there is some stuff there, but I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I mean, now we can. Oh, I wanted to bring up that point about chess. What about that
yeah.
renaissance that chess is making right now?
Okay, so
there's a lot of streamers on Twitch that are streaming chess.
I think it's super smart because, like I was saying, if there's, the game of the week is always going to change. And even if these games can last a while, like League of Legends or World of Warcraft, they've come so far that they're much different than they like. Say you played in the beginning of League of Legends and you didn't catch up, and then you start watching now. It's going to be completely different, right?
Yeah.
And metas change and this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chess is literally the same game. Whenever you watch it, it's going to be the same. They made like new modes and different ways of playing, like blitz mode and stuff like that, which makes it more interesting.
No idea about any of that, but
I believe I don't know much about chess, but I believe blitz mode is like you have a certain amount of time to do moves. So it just
okay, so it's more
speeds it up, and it has you play a bit differently because you're kind of pressured to play.
I was gonna say, isn't that how they normally play in like not competitions, but like tournaments?
Yeah, it's like
they play on a timer.
Yeah, it's anyway. I'm probably wrong about that, but I believe that they are designing new ways of being able to play the core game of chess. But what it offers is, like I said, is just it's a game of chess. If you know the rules, you know the rules. And if somebody's playing it now or in 25 years, it's going to be exactly the same. So I think that's what happened. And I think once certain chess people realized that there was potential there, it's like you could be the top chess streamer now, and potentially you could still be playing chess in 20 years and you could still have that audience. Whereas, as well as I do, that a lot of people will go up and down based off of what games are popular and all that stuff. So I think that's why it caught on. And then the chess people are smart, and they reached out to a lot of creators, and they created all these collaborations and broadened the interest of chess to a lot more people. So now a lot of new people are getting into chess, and that's exactly what they want. They want as many people to be knowledgeable about chess as possible. And again, unlike a game like, let's say, like again, like Call of Duty or Fortnite or something, it's like there's some people that game's not for them. They can't play it. They don't want to play it. It's like chess is pretty easy to start, and so as many people as you can show it, there's some percentage of chance that they'll play it. It's very low risk entry, right? You pretty much just have to have a computer. Like that's it. And then you can play in person if you have a chessboard, right? So it's like that's another aspect too, I guess, is like you could watch chess on the computer, on YouTube, on Twitch, and then you can go home and like play with your dad on the board. You know what I mean? Like there's no limits. Like you could go somewhere that technology wasn't, and you can still play it. So
I'll say that
that's why
it's definitely the accessibility that it has going for it. And
right.
The more people, chess is one of those games where the more people play and the more people watch other people play, the more the better that they'll get at it, which I think is leading to these bigger numbers of people watching these chess streams and chess videos, because you're trying to get strategies, you're trying to understand why somebody's making this move, and understanding the risk reward situation. That I think you're always going to have that kind of retention whenever somebody's that interested about chess. Somebody's always going to be looking into, well, how can I get better? Let me watch this guy who's a grandmaster chess player, so I can pick up some things from them.
I think one last thing that goes along with that is, like, especially with multiplayer games and MOBAs especially, and other games like that, like the whole mindset behind those games is that you want to get better, right? So you want to learn, and you want to learn techniques and strategies, but those games are constantly changing.
Yeah.
So chess is an example of the rules are not changing. The only thing you can do is get better. And it's not like you'll suddenly get worse one day because they changed the chessboard. Yeah. So your investment of time into trying to get better pretty much doesn't go away as long as you're at least keeping active within that game. Like I said, you can stop playing chess for 20 years, but if you still know the rules, you can come back in, and you probably won't be as good as you were because you haven't practiced in 20 years, but you are still at least somewhere above a beginner level because you're
just relearning strategies.
Yeah.
How to counteract different ones.
Right.
Well, let's go to another game that I feel has a very low barrier of entry, Fall Guys. That game's popularity right now.
Yeah, Fall Guys is also kind of similar. It's like
was gonna say I feel like it's probably the perfect non-competitive competitive game.
Yeah, I would say so. Because at this point, I'm pretty much turned off most multiplayer games, and I'm really enjoying Fall Guys because I don't like the aspect of getting angry and all this stuff. And I can say that, yeah, I've been salty sometimes if I didn't win a crown, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I'll get the next one. The games are so fast too. It's like
Yeah,
you can be like, I can be at a crown attempt in another 10 minutes. So I
yeah,
think that's what it really has going for it. I think if they made the rounds longer, it would be a completely different story. It just always feels like you're not that far away from getting another one or trying to get another one.
yeah.
Um,
So I'll say that's definitely one big difference between a game like Fall Guys and any kind of a MOBA is, um, the longer the games go, the higher the adrenaline rush is and the more
yeah,
intense things get. Where if you're playing Fall Guys and you lose in the first 2 rounds, or even if you lose in the final round, you know that it'll only take you like 10, maybe 15 minutes to get back to that.
exactly. And
Whereas
that,
in a MOBA, you could be playing for legitimately a half an hour, have one thing go wrong and lose,
yeah,
and in order to even get back to the point where you can win is going to be at least another 20, 30, sometimes even 40 minutes, depending on the games.
yeah, it's definitely a multiplayer game that has the right aspect of like keeping your stress low, keeping it fun, keeping the adrenaline high, like you said. Like you can be getting an adrenaline rush like every 10 to 15 minutes because you're put in really crazy situations. But yeah, it has so much potential. I'm really hoping that that game is able to keep it together. And but again, thinking about chess, it's like I really like the low barrier to entry in Fall Guys, but it does seem like they're going to be changing it constantly. So the only thing is obviously like they're trying to keep the games not necessarily like something that you can only win by like being good at that level, which I appreciate because I think the whole point of it is that you can get good to some extent, but obviously there's some randomness thrown in.
Yeah.
Um, and from what I can see, like for season two, it seems like they might be throwing out all the season one maps and just adding completely new maps, which I'm not really a huge fan of. I think they should combine them, but that still has to be seen, and I'm not sure how that's going to end up working out, but we'll see.
Yeah, I haven't been following that all too much, but I think not necessarily. I mean, even if they do scrap all of the maps from the first season, I
Mhm.
don't think they're gonna permanently get rid of them. I think they're just gonna take
Yeah,
them. They're gonna end up with like, let's look 3 or 4 seasons down the line. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure that they're gonna have rotations, and like DoorDash will be
yeah,
in
yeah,
season 2, but it won't be in season 3, and then it'll come back in season
yeah,
five.
sure.
So, or the other way that the other approach they can go is just to continuously add new maps and game modes, and then just have the randomness factor pick them.
Yeah, I think that that's probably what's going to happen. The other thing I was thinking is they might have, again, it's hard to say because if it's only 2 seasons, like I think they'll have like the most recent season and then they'll have like everything previously, maybe. So you can play like the wild format, which has everything, and then you can play the current season if you want. And you can get good at the new games by playing only the current season, and then you can eventually then jump back into
I
all the
don't
old
think it's a
games.
good move for them to do something like that though, because then you split up your player base. I think that's one major thing they have
Mm.
going for them is that there's only one type of game mode, and it doesn't matter if you're playing with people or if you're playing by yourself, you're still thrown into that same pool
Yeah,
of players.
yeah,
I mean, let's look at a game like Smite. They have so many different game modes that they want to consolidate. They want to get rid of some of the game modes, but now you have people pushing back saying, well, we like these game modes like Siege that doesn't get a lot of playtime, whereas games modes like Arena and Conquest are their main 2 modes. But a game like Smite would benefit more from having less game modes. So it's like
mm.
it's good that it's diverse, but at the same time, that diversity also hampers the amount of
Yeah. And I think that this is
players.
all just problems of these multiplayer experiences because you want to appeal with more modes to appeal to more people. But at the same time, yeah, it does matter what your player base is. And if you end up splitting your player base and not being able to have quick enough matches, then maybe people then stop playing the game because they want it.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, and I'm not sure how they're going to go with it. So I'm hopeful for Fall Guys, but I do think that they need to be extremely careful because I think there's a lot of ways that they can mess it up fairly easily. So we'll just have to see how they proceed with it. But right
one
now,
thing
it's
that
amazing.
I think that one reason I think that they'll be fine for a good while is essentially they're almost copying the Fortnite kind of style. Like, not that the style is similar to Fortnite, but you have cartoonish kind of graphics.
Yeah.
And like something like Fall Guys, especially, where the aesthetic of it appeals to younger kids, but the gameplay appeals to those who are competitive and skilled. And then, but it's still simple enough that people who are just getting into gaming can play it. And while Fortnite eventually became a very high skill game,
it wasn't at the beginning.
It wasn't at the beginning, and the cartoonish graphics helped to draw people in, especially when it was just a single player experience. Or not a single player, but a co-op experience before they added the battle royale to it.
And again, if you think about the aspect of what will keep the game going is money. So they've done a really good job, in my opinion, of, again, it's not like it's unlike anything we've seen before, but the Fall Guys are adorable. They have different types of costumes. There's basically unlimited potential for coming up with different outfits, different colors, different patterns. They're already starting to get collaborations with different games. So all those kind of all those like collaborations will just bring in more and more fans as well.
Yeah.
And it also gets people wanting to spend money on the game, which is important, right? You want people to pay money for your game because that's what's going to keep it going. And I don't feel like they do it in a bad way. Like, I don't usually buy skins in games, but I've already found myself in Fall Guys to being like, man, if they made this one, I would definitely buy it, right?
Yeah.
So that's good, I guess.
One thing I think they did well is, yes, you can buy skins, but you can also earn them. I think that's one big factor of because to me, putting everything behind a paywall and you have your skins that you can earn in game, but then you can have your premium skins. I feel like that also puts a fracture in there. To that, where somebody who can't spend, like, they can barely spend enough money to have that game in the first place. Then now you're asking them to pay for a skin that they really want.
Well, and they were smart about that as well, because the crown currency, obviously, you want to strive to get crowns to get those good skins. And
I don't even think that you can get the crowns outside of winning or
no, you can't.
Through the pass.
Only through the pass. But that's what I'm saying. That's smart. So what does that make you do? It makes you want to play more.
Exactly.
Because the more you play, the more crowns you can get, and then you can get the skin you want to. So it's like a win-win. They're like keeping their community alive also. Because think about if you're a kid, right, and you don't have the money. So you'll be like, okay, I just need to get good at this game, and then eventually I can get the skins I want. But it keeps the player base interested, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Fall Guys is looking pretty good.
They have I feel like they have a really good business model. I don't think that we're going to really see that game falter for quite a while, even if they make a mistake. And they seem like the kind of dev team that would quickly remedy.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything major, not like the community's complaining about the randomness of Seesaw.
Yeah.
Because you can't really combat that. It's human behavior. Everybody's going to act differently.
Yeah, and I feel like with that, it's like people complained about it for like a week, and then everyone just learned how to play it and then stopped caring. Because you're always like, for those intro games, there's so many people playing at that point that it's like you're always going to be brought down by the people that don't know what they're doing.
You're always at the mercy of the horde.
Yeah, there's always a bell curve of people who are good, who are better than others, right? So you're always going to have those people that are just messing you up. And
I've been eliminated on Seesaw, and I consider myself to be very knowledgeable about how physics works. Not the most knowledgeable. I don't have a degree or anything, but I understand that, okay, it's going to eventually come back, but the more people are on one side,
Yeah.
not only the longer is it going to take, but also the more it's going to tip. So, such a good game. Confession, I still have not won a crown at all.
Wow. I haven't played too much. I'm still playing on PS4. I'm about to buy it on PC as well. I think I have 5. But I will say that some of those 5 were extremely lucky, but then there were so many other ones where I got like number 2 in Hexagon like 5 or 6 times. So some of the games I'm like really good at, but just not quite. There's still some randomness. Like you
Yeah.
can be really good at Hexagon and still lose. Like it just
I mean, there's
happens.
always randomness involved
So
in my mind when you add in other people because you're not going to know how other people are going to react
right.
100 times out of 100.
And that's why that's the fun in it, right? It's like
Yeah.
you can get really good, but you're still gonna lose, and you're still like it just happens.
And sometimes I do find myself getting a little salty and
Yeah.
feeling the rage building, and then it's just like, all right, I guess it's time to play something else.
And I think like as much as this sounds weird too, I think that the cutesy aesthetics actually help you de-stress a little
Yeah.
bit too, where you could be like, this dude is literally a chicken and he's jumping around and he's you know what I mean?
Or
Like,
you
and
do
it's
it,
just
you do a
goofy.
jump and then you just kind of flop over.
Right, and if you get frustrated because something stupid happens to you, you see it happen to somebody else like 3 seconds later too, and
But
you're
not
like,
only that,
okay, it's like
you falling
whatever.
over can cause like
Yeah.
everybody else to fall over. So it becomes this whole pile up effect where it's like, how can you be
Yeah.
mad because
Yeah,
all
exactly.
these little beans are flipping over each other.
Right.
But yeah, I mean they have a de-stress factor. Their business model seems pretty solid.
Yeah.
The game is fun, not very intensive. It can get intensive. You can build that adrenaline rush, but even if you lose, you get right back to it in a matter of seconds, and
Right.
there you go. Now, one thing about the gaming industry that has been bothering me is and I mean this has been bothering me for the most part since it's really made an impact, would be microtransactions in games that are paid.
Yeah, that was one thing I actually wanted to mention about Fall Guys as well, is that it does cost money by itself.
Yeah.
It is low, it's only 20, but it's kind of going with the free to play model, but it is a paid game.
Now, do you think it's
So
because of how profitable the free to play model's been?
I think so. I mean, like even look at like AAA games that cost $60, they still put microtransactions in it, almost any of them. So I think it's just these days you'd be kind of stupid not to be a game dev and like put in microtransactions as long as it wasn't harming the game. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, if we are going to continue forward, and I really think that we are going to continue forward with microtransactional games, it has to be cosmetic. I don't think it can overwhelmingly affect gameplay, because then that just kind of shows that, well, now these games are going to allow you to pay to be better or to have better equipment.
Well, right, but that's only relevant if it's a game that matters. So
Yeah.
let's take for example like a game that might have a multiplayer aspect but it's not competitive. Like let's say like a mobile game or something like a Farmville like game, right? Where you set up a town and then you get all these resources. It's like, does it really hurt to be able to speed up your process and to make your town better and this and that? It's like that's kind of where the whole microtransaction thing came from. It started off on that aspect of like people who want to play the game and want to feel cool, they can just pay more money and get better stuff. Um, I don't think that will ever go away. I don't really like it necessarily because I think it preys upon people that might not even have that much money but get really obsessed with the game and just want to have the best thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a very toxic environment. If you guys, I mean, if anyone heard about like you know, these mobile game whales and stuff. Like, these people are not necessarily people that have a ton of money, but they spend a ton of money on the game. And I think that whole relationship of being like, if you're developing a game that preys upon that as its sole way of making money, then you probably shouldn't be making that game.
Yeah.
It's almost like the people that make pharmaceutical drugs that people get addicted to, right? It's like you're contributing to this problem that's known by you, and you're still taking advantage of those people. It's kind of unfortunate. It's a very like gray area, but I would hope that going forward that people step away from that because they just understand that there's other ways of doing it, that they can still make money and they don't have to sacrifice people's like mental state and financial power, etc.
I'm actually glad you used the words mental state, because
Yeah.
a lot of it is psychology based.
Oh, it's 100%.
And not even just with gaming, just marketing in general is all psychology based. That you are manipulating somebody's mental thoughts and mental processes to get them to be interested in a product or a service, and then to get them to spend their money on said things.
Yeah, I mean, think about limited edition.
Yeah.
Limited edition is literally a marketing way of saying you should buy this because eventually you won't be able to and you'll wish you did. That's basically a limited edition. They did it with cereal, which is insane, and people buy it.
Yeah.
Limited
and I'm sure people still have unopened boxes of limited edition cereal for.
But that's the thing, because somebody found out about that along the line, discovered that if you just say this is limited, that people will go crazy for it. That's a psychology thing. So yeah, I think eventually gaming became just like any other industry, right?
Yeah,
like that's the thing. It's like
didn't really have a choice.
Yeah. And that's bound to happen. So I think to say like, oh, I wish that this stuff all goes away, it's like it won't, because somebody's going to be making money off of it.
Yeah.
But I do hope that it kind of trends in a direction that's better for all people. Like I like, again, Fall Guys, for example. It takes some of the mental stress away from online gaming. And in my opinion, that's a win. And if more games start doing stuff like that, I think it'll just be better overall. Because even like you said, if you're playing a MOBA or something and you're getting into these hour-long games and you're feeling really powerless and you're getting really stressed out, that's really not good for anyone's mental state.
No.
So, yeah.
And all of that before even considering how other people will treat people online.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's not even.
And that's a whole other spectrum of issues to deal with.
Exactly.
And then to go back to marketing, like the ubiquitousness, is that even a word? How prevalent ads are everywhere. You go on a site and you're just hampered with ads mixed in with anything that, like, you're trying to read a news article, and now you have a section of the news article that's broken off when you're scrolling on your phone for an ad that's longer than the article that you've read so far.
Right.
Going on websites, pop-up ads have always been a thing. It's so, in all honesty, it's annoying as shit when you're just trying to look up information or trying to watch a video, and the continuity of a video especially being broken up by a mid-roll ad. I understand why. I understand how it could be used. I feel like someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson actually works in effectively ad rolls where he'll be talking to somebody, then he'll stop the conversation right there and kind of almost like a TV show where it comes to a brief halt with the intended purpose of playing an ad. Then he'll play an ad there and then pick it back up as if nothing ever happened, thus kind of keeping that continuity a little bit. But a lot of videos on YouTube are like, I watch a lot of longer videos. I know.
Okay.
I watch a lot of longer videos. Now, 10 minutes in, I'm getting hit with an ad roll And then sometimes they're unskippable, and other times I get crazy ads on there. Then I come back to the video, and it's kind of like any kind of immersiveness that I've had with that video is kind of broken a bit.
Okay, but like, to bring a counter argument, let's go back a few years to TV, right? It's like you're watching a TV show, and those ads were so predictable, you knew exactly when they were coming and you knew how long they would be. So I think, if anything, we've just become too spoiled by the early internet, which didn't really have any ads. And now we're just getting to be where TV was. And I will say as well, I always talk about this. People think I'm always like trying to like shill on it or whatever, but there is a browser right now that was developed by the guy who made Firefox, where basically it blocks a lot of pop-ups in the browser itself and ads. But then what it's doing is their whole like mission is that they're getting paid by advertisers and actually delivering you ads that it knows that you want to see, or based off your specific interests alone, right? YouTube does it to some extent already, right? Like, you might see an ad on a skateboard video for a skateboard product. That's because of YouTube knows what you're listening to or watching, right?
Yeah.
But the whole idea behind this is that you're still supporting the people, and you can also turn that off if you want completely. But it's like taking all the junk ads that you don't give any crap about, because think about how many total ads you see on a daily basis. Some of them may be targeted, but some of them are completely useless. And it's funneling the advertisers' money to people that actually want to see that ad, like people that are your main demographic. So it's like getting rid of one problem and changing it. Like let me ask you, I guess, like, would you care as much about ads if it was something that you were actually interested in more?
You mean if I had any kind of a vested interest in ads?
No, I just mean, like, again, like you talked about the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing, right? So two things, I guess. One thing, would you care as much about the ad if it was related to something that was happening in the thing you were watching in some way?
Not really.
You wouldn't care.
I mean, I wouldn't really care. I wouldn't really care what the ad is, if it's in relation to, if it's something relevant to what it is I'm watching, or if it's something completely different.
Right.
Oftentimes, and especially something podcast style, having an ad break up mid-sentence a thought, then you go back and it's like, okay, well, I gotta now I gotta use more of my mental process to figure out to put those two pieces together.
Are you talking about when they do like an ad read in the middle of the podcast?
No.
Or are you talking about an actual ad? Okay.
An actual ad. Ad reads I get are completely different. Yeah. And oftentimes a lot of people will put them before a podcast or at the end of a podcast or whatever. Right. But if I'm watching a random playthrough of a video game on YouTube and something happens and then mid-roll and now it comes back and it's like, okay, well, now I have to use some of my mental process to pick back up on the conversation when somebody's just talking about anything.
One thing I wanted to say too is I don't know too much about. Doesn't YouTube have like a subscription that you can pay for that maybe gives you less ads?
YouTube Red, I think. No ads.
It's not. I think it's just called Premium now. But is it no ads? I'm not sure. But it's
pretty sure it's no ads. But I don't know. I guess
I'm kind of getting into the sense that I would rather just do stuff like that, because, like, for example, I've been watching a lot of anime, and Crunchyroll, if you don't have a subscription now, it's like you seriously get 5 ads like every 5 minutes, and it's insane. And it's like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
So I'll just pay the like $7 or $8 a month to not have that.
Yeah. Now I know I'm gonna sound like I'm like complaining about spending money, but if you really think about it, like, look at all the avenues that you can do stuff where if you pay for it, now you don't have to worry about ads.
Yeah.
YouTube, Hulu.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Netflix. I'm pretty sure Netflix you can only use if you have a paid subscription.
Yeah, so that's.
I think they're one of the only ones that are like that.
Yeah, but that's why they don't have
Spotify. You could use that for free, but then you get ads in between your songs.
Yeah, that's just like, you can kind of see that like one company will start doing something like that, and then the other companies see that you can make money by doing that, and it's smarter and blah blah blah. So then everybody just does it. It's like it's the way that things are progressing these
But
days.
the thing is, if you're using all of those, Spotify's $10 a month. I forget how much Hulu is. Crunchyroll's like what, 10 to 14 a month
actually.
or something like that. All that stuff adds up.
Yeah. Yeah, but even think about this too. It was like I'm buying a Funimation subscription so I can watch the Funimation anime, and then now I want to buy Crunchyroll. It's
Exactly.
like now I'm
And
spending
now
$30 a month on anime.
yeah,
But yeah, I know.
it
But
adds
again,
up.
like, and remember a day when you had to just go buy seasons of anime, and those cost like $30 a season. So it's like it's all different. Like as much as it seems like the world gets more commercialized and whatever, it's like everything is relative because there's some things that are better, there's some things that are worse. It just depends. Like the internet is so powerful and we got away with it for a really long time with not having to deal with ads and everything that now it's like everything's just catching back up. So I don't know.
I just think advertisers didn't know an effective way of
Yeah,
marketing
no,
on
no,
websites and
they
stuff like
didn't
that.
at first, and now they figured it out. And now because everyone pretty much does it the same, you can kind of see they really tuned into what works the best
I think
and
for
what
me
makes
is,
them the most money and like all that stuff.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that I don't really want things advertised to.
Mm,
Like I personally, yeah, like there will be some ads where it's like, hey, I could probably use that, and
yeah.
that's all well and good. But if I didn't get that ad, then I would make do without whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the point. Advertising as a whole is really negative for people, especially the lower income people, because it's just forcing things into your eyes view that maybe your mind, again, it's like you said, marketing is just like taking advantage of human psychology.
Yeah.
So, and advertising will always exist.
Yep.
So
Unfortunately.
you pretty much have to train yourself to resist advertising because that's, I mean, if you obviously if you can't afford these things, or if you're getting so mentally unstable that you're just buying every single thing that you're seeing, yeah,
And
it is a thing.
I know it'll probably sound hypocritical if at some point I do end up getting ads and things like that, but I would like control over how and where I can put those advertisements.
You pretty much can, from what I've understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, for something like this, in getting sponsors and ad stuff like that,
Mhm.
I'll do an ad read at the beginning, and even with that, like I don't want to just read off of a script. I want to, like, if I were to be promoting some product, I would want to be using that product, understanding how like what it does, and then giving my own experience off of it instead of just reading off of a script of, oh, this shampoo has made my hair so soft. No, I want to say I use this every day. I like it a lot. I really think that it helps for someone. It helps for my hair. I think it can help for yours. I want to be able. I want to have more freedom with things like that.
Right. I think that most good creators do that. I've only seen a handful of people that I could kind of tell that they like here's a good example like radio people have again a lot of ads and a lot of those ad reads on the radio are funny to me because I can tell that they're not true at all. Those people don't give a crap about it. But then if you think about radio, they probably rely so much more on ads just to keep going
Oh yeah, I'm
because
sure.
radio is this thing right now where it's like it's probably not that profitable, not nearly as profitable if they were to just make a podcast or something online.
Yeah,
So they have to get those advertisers. Um, and I think that that's a good point as well because I think it's pretty easy these days to tell if somebody genuinely likes a product or not.
by the
I
way,
think that's something that's changed.
Top of the
Yeah,
Morning Coffee, not sponsored.
I've never heard of it, but I don't drink
Jacksepticeye.
coffee. But
Jacksepticeye made a coffee brand called Top of the Morning Coffee.
hmm, what's special about it? What do you like about it?
I bought the cold brew. The cold brew tastes good, and it was a pretty good price. So I haven't had too much of it, but in the way I see it, I'm willing to try something new and supports a creator that I like. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, that the way that I think about I mean, you got to think about ads like that, especially on
Yeah.
YouTube and especially on channels that are like people's channels and not like companies. It's like, as much as I would dislike seeing a lot of ads, I'm like, if I'm able to financially help this person by not even giving them any of my money, but just by giving them a little bit of time and obviously exposing myself to ads, but if I can handle that and say, okay, I just don't need these products, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
Because that's a way that anybody can help somebody else, is just by giving into the marketing that they're putting out there.
And just to clear the record, I'm just mildly inconvenienced by ads. It's not.
Yeah, I get you.
It's like I will make an argument against it, but at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, there's another ad. Okay. I'd rather not see it, but I don't know.
There's definitely ways of doing it too. Like I said, like to call out Crunchyroll again, like I feel like they do it in such a way where they're just making it so obnoxious that you you almost have to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's like at least a minute or two of ads, and like it forces you to watch it every certain amount of time. And I don't think that's the right way of doing it. I think you could have like 3 ads, and there would probably still be people that want to pay for the subscription. So
oddly enough, before I got my own Crunchyroll account, I actually thought it was the same model as Netflix, where you paid to have access to it. I didn't realize you can access it for free until after I had already subscribed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's changed a lot. Like I used to just have an account and there were ads, but there weren't like that many ads, and you could watch pretty much anything. And then they changed it to like you needed a premium account to watch certain anime and not others. And then it was like you can watch like a bunch of stuff, but you just get a crap ton of ads if you don't pay for it.
I do think that advertising can lead to a very detrimental place, though, in society. I do think that.
Oh yeah, it's
right now. I mean, yeah.
Because okay, let's think about this again. Like, let's go back to the height of cable again, right? If you didn't watch TV, you just weren't really exposed to very many ads. If you go to a store, or like again, like think about the way, like the main ways of advertising, even just like 10 to 15 years ago, like looking at like advertisements for stores that were in a newspaper, right? You get the like Sunday ads that every store has its ads, right? And you had like TV, and you had like billboards. So if you lived somewhere that didn't really have any billboards, and you didn't look at the paper, and you didn't watch TV, you're pretty much not exposed to anything.
Yeah.
So everything's or word of mouth, right? Now it's like everybody uses the internet and there's ads there. So I think that's why we are also getting to this point where people are so hyper focused on objects and getting the newest thing and this and that. It's because like it's psychology, and there's no alternative unless you're just completely off the grid. Because as much as you can say like, oh, well, just don't care about it, like there are people, it's a mental thing, and some people are probably just not strong enough to say that and to realize that. That's why you have people that are buying a ton of crap constantly.
Yeah, I will say ads have a time and a place, but there are times and places where they feel really obstructive.
Yeah.
If I'm looking up something online and I'm getting ready to click on a link, and next thing an ad loads and covers up like the entirety of the screen, now I'm clicking on an ad that I didn't even mean to click on.
Yeah.
And then with how personalized ads and everything becomes targeted, and now I'm seeing more ads because I clicked on an ad that I didn't even want to click on.
Yeah, and I think the scary thing too is that the thing that everyone talks about these days is like you can talk about something and then all of a sudden you are getting ads for it, which is really scary, because that I feel like is too much power.
Not only that, I don't mean to cut you off, but not only that, I've had times where I would talk with somebody about something, then I would go on Google, look up something that was close to it, or even that same thing, and it would show up show up as one of the first few options. Like, at what point do we? Yeah, at what point do we address that, or do we just become numb to it?
I don't know. I think that this is all a problem of I don't want to get too much in details, but like internet like security and your personal information on the internet. It's like I really hope that they take some steps to do something about it because it's really scary that companies can have so much information on you and sell it to other companies and do this and that. It's like you basically don't own anything about your own information these days. But that's like a whole independent podcast
Not
discussion.
to
But
go to into a political direction, but I think Andrew Yang is like coming up with proposals about stuff like that and protecting our data
yeah, that would be really nice if
and I think
somebody did
allowing
work
us
on
to
that.
be able to make some money off of our own data if we choose
Mhm.
to. I think that would probably be a way to look in the
Yeah, I think
information
that would
age.
be really powerful. It just like obviously there's going to be backlash against that. The thing is, we live in a capitalist society, so anything that's going to prevent people from making more money is going to be a bit of an issue. But I think that those people that are doing that, they realize that that's pretty messed up, that they shouldn't be doing that. But there's just so much profit in it that why wouldn't they do it? There's no rules that tell them they can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's keep it at that. I think that's a good enough discussion of that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go much deeper into anything like that unless I
Yeah,
do the research. And in all
yeah,
honesty, I
exactly.
haven't done the research. It's just reading headlines and just basic ideas of stuff that I'm not fully informed on.
Yeah, but I will say that he has said that yeah, there. Andrew Yang was talking to H3 Podcast, and he was saying that there are talks of potentially making a cabinet position for technology,
Yeah,
and that's really exciting to me. I don't know if it'll happen, but maybe again, just that there's knowledge out there and people are starting to think about it. I think that would be really, really good to have. Um, just people thinking about that, regardless if they do anything or not, but informing people on what's going on
I think with
is really
regards to
powerful
the United
information.
States government right now, and moving forward, I think that we need to seriously be looking into these kinds of things and having somebody whose focus is more on the technological side and
Yeah,
dealing with those issues and climate side and dealing with those issues. And in all honesty, I just think we need to get politics out of as much things as possible. It's I mean, everything's becoming overly politicized in this era,
yeah, hmm
and it's really really dangerous.
right. I was gonna say, do you have like one more topic? Perhaps I should go soonish, but
Yeah, if you gotta get out of here, I mean that's all well and good.
let's do. Do you have anything? You have like one other topic,
Sports.
one other question? Sports. Okay, sure. Yeah, let's talk about it.
I feel like sports have been one of those things that have been magically able to create their own bubble amid the virus and being able to play out the remainders of seasons or post seasons and to be able to do it without fans. I think that's been one of the most interesting things about like everything going on with the virus.
Yeah, I think it's just another example of people didn't realize how much of our society was ingrained in social interactions. And then because of that, they didn't think it would be possible to not have a social aspect and still have things happen. Like work, for example. People were so worried about working from home. Now, most companies, I guarantee, are not going to send most people back to work because they don't have to. And people are more productive at home when they have flexibility. And it's like, yeah, people have been saying that for a long time. If you gave them more flexibility, they could do the amount of work that they can do it at work and also take care of their family or take care of whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think sports and all this stuff is exactly the same. I think that they thought that one of the biggest parts of sports was the social interaction and having the fans there. And of course it is, but it's not like they couldn't do it without it. You can do anything, and we have the technology. We've had the technology to do this
We
stuff for
have
a
the
long time.
technology.
that people didn't use it, and now I'm hoping that people will use it more
Yeah.
and in cooler ways because now they know it can be done.
Well, actually, let's take this
Um,
topic off of sports and let's just say of
okay.
the things that everything that's been going on has really exposed. Like being able to work from home,
Yeah.
um, people having a bit more freedom through um, stimulus checks and things like that.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
really good one.
we're at a point in history where a lot of decisions are going to need to be made, and I think that we need to really start looking out for the welfare of everybody instead of just kind of letting people fend for themselves. I mean, you still have people dealing with looming evictions and things like
Hmm.
that. And not only that, how many months has it been for some people to get paid and they haven't been able to pay rent and when they have to
Yeah,
put
it's
food
been
on
a
the
while.
table? That when everything, the moratorium on evictions goes away, you're going to have people having to pay what 5 6 months worth of rent at once.
Yeah, which is like not possible really by anybody.
And I personally don't think that should be allowed. I feel like there was a better way to handle all of this that just wasn't done. I don't know. I feel like if you had given the the homeowners that um if you if you give a stimulus to the people who own properties that rent them out and then say we need you to forgive rent for as long as the pandemic's going on, and then giving a small but consistent stimulus to the renters so that they can put food on the table. They don't have to worry about going out to work as much. And doing that instead of giving money out to big businesses and giving one big stimulus check to everybody, I feel like that probably could have been a better way. I don't know. I'm not a financial expert.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
just
know. I
those are
just
just
know.
thoughts that I've had that I feel like could have done a better job. And
Right, and I think
somebody who's well more versed in this, feel free to let me know.
I think it's just a really complex problem, and I'm just hoping that it will be an ongoing problem, and or not ongoing problem, ongoing solution.
Yeah,
That I hope that there's not one way of solving it because I don't think that's the right way. I hope that there will maybe be phases, and as things start getting settled down, they'll try to take care of specific people in specific ways.
I agree with
Because
that.
there are definitely a lot of different situations out there, but I think that they hopefully will get to that, and everybody will be taken care of
Yeah.
in a specific way. Um, yeah, yeah,
Well, one other thing I was going to mention is that one thing that I think that we really all, as a culture, need to realize is that things aren't black and white. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
there's so much nuance that we're just looking in terms of one or the other, and that's why I agree that I don't think any one solution is going to be the answer
Mm,
because there's so much nuance in life.
yeah,
Um, I mean, everybody has their own backstory. Everybody has their own mental issues that mental processes and living situations that cause them to do what it is they do, or um, somebody gets wrapped up in a gang because of different circumstances. I mean, you'll have some people who are poor just because they choose to be. Then you'll have some people that didn't have a choice and ended
hmm,
up in a really bad situation.
yeah.
Not to say
It's
that people choose to be poor, but there are some people who don't need a lot of money and choose to not have a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that's the better way of saying it. I don't know. I just hope like as kind of like a conclusion on everything. I hope that when things return to a somewhat normal state, that people will be more grateful for what they have and appreciate things more. Like I know obviously most people won't be in the best situation, but maybe you'll enjoy your friends more and you know, just like doing simple things, right? Like going to the grocery store and not having to worry about anything, right?
Yeah,
Just like the simple things in life and like humanity as a whole, I hope, will be like more friendly to each other and just like, again, be like, we all made it through this. This is over now, blah, blah, blah. I'm really hoping that that happens. I don't know. I was feeling hopeful in the beginning because everyone seemed to have that kind of attitude, like we're in this together. But then that quickly changed into like every person for themselves,
Yeah.
which was crazy. But I think I'm still hopeful. I think once we get on the end of it, that people will go back into that state of like we're appreciating life, we're appreciating everything we have. We're trying to help each other out when we can,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Bring back the humanity.
The sentiment I want to end this on is, at the end of the day, we all need to come together. We're all humans. Doesn't matter what we think, how we act, what we do, what we look like. I mean, we're all people. We all have these issues that we got to work through together, and then we need to work on ourselves to become better people. I need to do it. I'm sure you have your own things that you need to work on. But at the end of the day, let's be hopeful, let's be optimistic, and let's get out there and make the change that we need to make to better ourselves and to better the world. Shnick, thank you for coming on, having this conversation.
You're welcome.
You're always going to be welcome back.
Put me on the Hall of Fame wall right there in the back. Right. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the discussions, and I look forward to seeing your future conversations.
All right. First podcast in the books. Have a good one, everybody.